votes. So you have to look at it from that universe of votes. This is what we tried to do. Maybe Mr. Cox, you can explain this.
Yes, Cox. Councilman Bunny. Maybe it's good to describe what happened in San Francisco. There, they, at least from a analysis of the votes taken in 2004, of 4 council elections, there wasn't a single one that won by a majority of the total votes. So, in other words, they're going to be, in many instances, apparently, plurality victories when you use a limited ranked system, or probably any system. And so what this language does is anticipating the fact that you've got exhausted votes, that the universe changes because of the protocol you just described. Essentially, certain votes not having any of the finalists on them, the universe of votes declines as you go along. So this language was added to make sure that it didn't reference back to 50 plus 1 of the total, but instead 50 plus 1 of the continuing universe of votes. Mr. Bush.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had a couple questions tagged into that same thing. Under the example that was mentioned earlier, I guess the easiest way I can understand it is if you had a candidate, or you had a voting universe of 101 votes cast. Up to this point, it's my understanding, if the candidate gets 51 votes, that is the victor. Well, I think the question was, does this set a new standard that that candidate to win has to have 52 votes now, because you have to have 50%, which would be 51 plus the 1 vote. So that was the question I think he was asking. I'm not sure that was addressed. If that sets a new standard, that's a separate issue than the question I had was related to if you had 3 candidates, such as the example here, and you eliminate the third vote, the lowest voter, that reduces your universe. So then you're looking for 50% of what's left. If there isn't a tie, you've got a winner. My question is, how do you handle, if you have, for example, 3 candidates in this election, what would be the protocol for handling if you had a candidate second and third that actually came out with a tie? How do you deal with that? If no candidate has it, they have 48%, as the example was, and candidates 2 and 3 were tied, what do you do in that situation? Do you flip a coin? Do you flip a coin to eliminate one of them? Or?
That's a fabulous question, because that's exactly what we're dealing with trying to put our arms around all of the issues that we're going to have to put in place. This is just the tip of the iceberg that we're bringing forward to you, so we've got a lot of protocol, a lot of procedures. Some we'll think we'll be able to put in our canvassing board manual. Some we'll bring back to you and have you do it councilmatically. These items that we brought to you, originally we had some that were councilmatic action, we believe, some that we will just put as a measure of our canvassing board manual, and some that we thought that should go to a vote of the people. But these issues, just like you're mentioning about ties and what do we do with that, we're going to have to grapple with that. And so we will come back to you with some suggestions, and then we'll have this dialogue. It'll be a continuing dialogue as we move forward with the implementation of ranked choice voting.
I would doubt that it probably would happen with the universe being as large as it would be for the offices that will be held, but if there have been discussions periodically in the community to extend this to lower number of jurisdiction where you have the fewer votes in a fire commissioner, a school board, a city council in a small community, you could have that opportunity arise much more likely. I say that understanding that when the legislature the courts eliminated the 99th House seat, and they said, well, they'll never have a tie. The very next election there was a tie, and then won twice since then. So
yeah, we'll have to tend to those for sure.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Farrell. Well, this ongoing discussion, hopefully Mr. Lee will be back for. So, all right. I believe we're on the final vote on the amendment. Is that correct? Any final comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving Council Amendment number 1 on blue signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion carries. So, are there any other amendments for 65S? I do not see any additional amendments for 65S. So we now have before us proposed ordinance 2007-65S, and we had gone through final comment on 65S. We have now substantively amended 65S. So while we've already had public comment on the amendment and under the underlying ordinance, we'll be extra cautious and allow for one additional public comment on the ordinance before us. So anyone wishing to testify for or against the amended ordinance,
there wasn't something we heard the first 2 times, or something new, or you want to say it again, we're welcome to hear all of that. Your name for the record, please.
Chair Goings and members of the council, for the record, my name is Randy Bossa, and I would like to say it again and again and again and again. The issue before you under 65S is not this specific language, which I believe should be an ordinance, not an amendment to the charter, but the issue of the implementation date of 2008 or 2010. The Charter Commission spent months going through this issue. It was already voted on by the public. They've already established a date, and I would urge the council to reject 2007 65S, leave the implementation date as 2008, and this language is contained in 2 other ordinances before you today, which would get it before the council. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Welcome.
Pat McCarthy, the Pierce County Auditor. I'm sorry I wasn't here in time to be able to speak to this, but I would agree with Mr. Boss to the degree that I think that the voters have voted to put this in place for 2008. And as I said to the Rules Committee last week, the train has left the station. We are on task and on target to implement this. It will be challenging. It is going to cost some money. And we do need your support and resources and support on implementing it. But basically, we've put hundreds of hours already into this process, and we want to see it go through. Nothing, I don't think you're going to anticipate, we don't anticipate new software being developed by 2010. It takes a long time for software to be developed. So I think we should move forward. Thanks.
What else? Seeing no one else, I'll close public comment on the ordinance. Any final comments or questions by members of the council? Mr. Murie.
Yes, I sponsored this amendment, contrary to what the News Tribune and some others would like to read from the paper. There is no political agenda for this. I don't mind running with this ranked choice voting. In fact, I've been one of the biggest supporters of ranked choice voting. But that being said, people do make amendments to the voters do make amendments to the Constitution, or in this case to the Charter, and then have an opportunity to re-amend the amendments. We did that once in our history at the federal level, and that was the prohibition, which turned out not to work, and so they rescinded that amendment. In this case, we're not asking them to rescind the amendment, to maybe delay it, because, first of all, I think we were a little bit cost $1.8 million. That's a lot of money. I thought we were going to be ranking all the candidates, not just top 3. And now we're being told that we have to close the polls to do it. Well, we're not going to close the polls. I don't think we have the votes in this council to close the polls. So if we're not going to close the polls, and the auditor says we have to close the polls to do ranked choice voting, we have a standoff here. So I think we should allow the voters to decide. And I want ranked choice voting to work, because remember, we're a laboratory test. We had San Francisco and Burlington, but they're unique. Pierce County is a real blue-collar, right in the middle of the country type of politically voting entity. If we do this and we do it right, this could then become a wave of the future. If we do this and we do it wrong, you can kiss this goodbye any other place in not only the state of Washington, but for the country. This will be the test bed. Not only is it expensive, but it ended up in a political fiasco. So I'm always a very patient man. My kids all grow up with 2 sayings that Dad always used to say them. Remember, you eat an elephant one bite at a time, and that the tortoise won the race. So I'm move forward, go forward, but do it in a sure way. And so I urge my colleagues to vote yes on this amendment. Either we pass all the amendments, we don't pass any of them, as far as I'm concerned. Thank you.